Okay.
That is usually what happens.
So I first heard your name in 2010 when I was playing shows with my friend Gregory Alan Isaacoff.
Yeah.
I'd like what I heard that Greg had played for me, and I'd seen you in the movie traveling around in the Volkswagen buses. And I'm like, who is this? And then I look, it's like, it's that Nathaniel Rateliff dude that I heard about from Greg. And I'm thinking, weird. That doesn't sound anything like the dude that I heard. But here you are, man. You've come a long way. And here you are with Joseph. You brought Joseph with you from the Night Sweats.
Well, yeah, and Joseph was with me in those days, too. We've been doing this stuff for over 20 years now. So
Joseph, you were the guitar player in the wheel,
That's
right?
right. I played guitar in the wheel.
And how did you end up on the bass?
I'm a much better bass player than I am a guitar player.
He did start off on guitar in the band, and then we eventually hired Luke, and then he
kind of got moved
I'm more
over.
of a shoegaze guitar player than a
How
rock
long
and
have
roll
you guys
band
been
guitar
playing
player.
together?
I mean, really over half our life at this point. So
Are you best buds?
25 years? Yeah.
My best bud, I've been playing with him.
Like yeah.
I
guess so.
What is it even at this point?
Yeah,
what do you call
best
it?
friend really mean? You know?
My best bud is, I've been best friends with him for 20 years, and he's my bass player too. So it's just something about best buddies and bass players.
Yeah.
Do you look back at him all the time like?
What the hell was that?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a thing I did, but then like, even our keyboard player Mark was like, "You looked at me in the middle of the set," and I was like a bad look, or he's like, "Just one of those looks." So I was like, "What?"
Am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
The self-titled Night Sweats album you made as a last-ditch effort before throwing in the towel on your music career, only to see it go viral and turn into a runaway hit. This is a sentiment that, unfortunately, I'm all too familiar with. But I want to know what brought you to that point of deciding, I think I'm done with this.
I mean, we had kind of been, felt like we were treading water for years. I did a lot of tours solo just to kind of keep things going, which made it hard for everybody else in the band. And then as you get older, you have families and commitments, and I think we just kind of all were like, I don't know if we can do this professionally. It's something I think we all wanted to do, regardless if it was going to be our career. But yeah, it was just kind of reaching that point where it seemed kind of hopeless. So the Night Sweats was just kind of like a bunch of demos in my attic that I ended up, kind of meeting up with Richard Swift and recording a bunch of great songs, and or like he put his twist on it, and it kind of changed everything.
But was it a financial thing, or was it just the grind, playing to a handful of people thing? Is that what it was that made you go, I don't know if I want to do this anymore?
It's kind of all of the above. It's discouraging to like pour your heart into something and it not really like ever connect, or you're just not playing in front of the right audience, which is a big part of it. So
Joseph, you were there kind of at the beginning, so to say. For when you're someone who's as a side person invested into a project and kind of following, as Bruce Springsteen sometimes puts it, the benevolent dictatorship, the necessity of a benevolent dictatorship. It must be a trip for you to start this thing and believe into something, and then almost have it fall apart, and then it take off. I mean, what are you getting that you didn't have then?
At that point, we'd had a couple bands that fell apart after a while. But, for me, and at that point, it was, I thought I'd accidentally become a house painter because, we're all working jobs that enable you to leave all the time to tour. And, when we finally, I think it's key for any artist to be able to find their audience. And however that worked for us, when we found our audience, it did feel like, like all of the work that we had been putting in our entire lives together, and not to mention all the other band members who had been there with us, was finally starting to just click, and we've been really excited about everything we'd ever done for the most part, and you grow and you hopefully do better the next time out. But, we'd been really excited before and kind of had our hopes kind of fall flat. And then you find yourself just kind of banging your head against the wall. So
what is it about your friendship or musical partnership that you're still here? When
we were young, I think 16 or 17, we kind of kind of realized we wanted to try to do this together, and we just never looked back. And the road definitely got pretty dark at some times. But I just feel like this is what I've always been trying to do. So I don't see any reason to stop now.
There's I think it's probably we have the same sentiment. But there's Steve Earle once said, in order to succeed in this business, you take your number off the ticket machine and you get in line, and you don't get out of line until your number's called. If there was a young singer-songwriter out there listening to this right now, and they're, thinking, well, nobody sells any records anymore, I don't think I can do this, what do you think you would tell them, him or her?
Don't do this.
Don't do it. Unless you have to.
Yeah.
Unless you absolutely
Strive
have to.
for normality. Just be a regular person. Keep all those songs in your head. Don't share them with anybody. It is tough, and it is, I think one of the reasons we're still here is because we just, like Steve Earle said, we never
left.
we just kept doing it, and, whether it shifted from the early days of us being in a band called Born in the Flood to The Wheel to Night Sweats, or, whatever shape it took, whatever title it had, we were still plugging away all the time. And it just it kind of always came first, which is, I guess, and that's the thing, too, is that at some point, your family might want to come first, and that kind of makes it a little hard when,
Do you guys have families? Kids?
I'm divorced.
You're divorced?
I have my wife Julie was the upright bass player in the Folk Project we had before this band for years, and we have a son together, and I have a daughter also.
Oh yeah. How are the kids?
My daughter's 16 and my son's 5.
Cool. Yeah, I got a 6-year-old. He's kicking around somewhere.
My stepdaughter's 23, so.
It's 23.
Yep.
Wow. Cool. So it is, I imagine there's a lot of struggle that would have become before the project kind of broke, and you're having kids, and here you are, and now you're, it's got to be easier now.
Yeah, it's easier now, but all things are somewhat relative, so the things that are easier now present new challenges, like being gone a lot of the time, but I don't think I would really change much of it. All in all, everybody has to work.
The Night Sweats records seem to be enough of a departure for me to raise an eyebrow from your previous records. Does it ever make you feel like a fish out of water, or is it something that you feel like you should have been doing all along?
No, I feel like, the path I took to get here was the right way.
Yeah.
And I think even if this all would have happened in our 20s, I think we would have fallen apart, really. So, because it takes a lot to keep your head together and not just accidentally party yourself to death out there. So
that kind of leads me to the next question. I saw a little interview you did on TV with a fella named James Corden, where he had mentioned this grueling tour schedule that you had, and you kind of jokingly said something along the lines of, I just go where they tell me to go. As a touring artist, that kind of gave me a bit of a red flag. Are you doing okay with all this attention and traveling around?
Nobody pays me any attention per se. I could handle a lot more attention, but the schedule is pretty intense, and I have some other pressures on me that the rest of the guys don't, and end up having to do a lot of extra stuff sometimes, and so that can be difficult. I really do enjoy time alone, and it's kind of what helps stimulate me to be creative. So it's hard to find those times, and it's hard to just balance it. But at the same time, I just, this doesn't always happen. We waited, we were
decades.
Working on this for our whole lives since we were kids to get to where we are. And so we just kind of take it, take it as it comes and
work while you can.
Exactly. There are no kings, as we
What are you
always say.
doing? What are you doing to take care of that voice every night?
Not drinking.
Not drinking?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Quit smoking.
When did you quit smoking?
Oh, it's been years now.
Really?
Yeah, I think right before the Night Sweats. Or even the beginning of the Night Sweats, probably.
Yeah, you were not smoking, I don't think.
I had quit by that time.
You know, your question earlier about, what you would say to a younger artist. Greg always told me, he's like, I think if you have just a little bit of talent and you're just willing to work nonstop and not give up, that you can find your place,
And I think if you have enough perception to just get better as a songwriter, if you're half decent to begin with, the more time you do this, the more you collect ideas, and the better the songs get.
I mean, if
supposedly.
In the Shalalallos is a hit, then you can shit out anything. I feel like. So.
What's that?
It's from that Lady Gaga movie.
Oh God. Okay, I haven't seen it yet.
Sorry.
Did I hear that you're working on a new solo record?
I guess you could call it that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a record I was supposed to make with Richard Swift.
Oh right.
Unfortunately, Swift passed away a year ago in June. And
That's right.
so Patrick Meese plays drums in the band, and our buddy James Barone, I kind of took them with me to kind of help. We kind of produced and engineered everything ourselves.
Yeah.
But I knew they had good ears to kind of help me. They had worked with Swift too, and I just kind of wanted to, do what he would have done.
Yeah.
So we've done our best trying to, do as many, of the things that Swift would have done to it. So.
What's the impetus behind it to work outside of the band?
I think it's just going to be like a very short record cycle. Is the plan right now.
Right. Is there?
And it'll basically be the same band members.
Right. Do you feel like there's a little?
It's just, I think like some of the setup will be some shows with just me, so it's not so confusing.
Do you think
and
there's a
then when
pressure
we're touring again
to make records with the Night Sweats that have that vibe, that have the Night Sweats vibe?
Yeah, I feel like it's like the Night Sweats are something that people have an idea of what we are, and so with the exception of just straight up catering to fans, I want to deliver something that is like what I think the Night Sweats are, not just which I think goes along with what a lot of fans do. And with our second record, we tried to do things differently and grow a little bit because we had grown as a band and really became a band, and so that's why we did a lot of it live in the studio, and try to do the same thing with the next one. I have a studio at my house now, and so we get to hash out a lot of stuff and ideas there. For this particular record that I've been working on, it was just very cathartic. It was a lot of stuff that Richard and I had in common.
Right.
I was going through a divorce as we were making the last record, and not really able to like talk about it the way I wanted to. And it's hard to really write about something when you're in the middle of it. And so a lot of the songs came out of that, and kind of dealing with Richard's death as well. And so it was necessary for me. It was really good for me to just be able to write about that stuff and kind of get it off my chest, and then kind of set myself up for the next Night Sweats record.
Good.
So.
Tell me about the Marigold Project.
Well, Marigold Project is just something we just kind of randomly. It was just kind of an idea, and I can't believe it actually happened. And it was another one of those instances where our manager is just a great listener, and he kind of heard us kicking around an idea about how we wanted to help a friend who had gotten hurt, and then we just kind of saw this kind of in the culture of you have a working family, they get hurt, and they're both working class. What do you do when you're permanently injured?
Yeah.
And that was the start of the idea, and then it just kind of led into community building and working with poverty and trying to fight homelessness, and then we're trying to work on Western water conservation and all sorts of different things. But it's kind of brought us into a bunch of different communities. It also kind of started from us working with Farm Aid, and we've continued to work with Farm Aid. And it's just crazy to think that most of Canada and the United States is rural areas, and so
there's no
I think a lot of decisions are made without the consideration of how is this going to affect the rural regions of our countries, and the people that make up the working class.
Yeah. So. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. You're opening for the Stones in Denver in August. That's amazing. Did you ever, in a million years of making folk records in your bedroom, think that you'd be opening for the Rolling Stones in your adopted hometown?
I think we can answer this at the same time.
No.
Yeah.
When we were teenagers, we're like, man, if Beck would just meet us, he would think we were so cool and we could hang out and open for him.
Yeah.
He didn't think we were that cool when we met him, though. So. It's been a handful. It's been a long time. So.
Did he try to convert you?
No. Yeah.
All right, last
He's
question.
like, how do you feel about science? You know. I was like, cool.
Yeah, spaceships are cool. Last questions. Beatles or the Stones?
The Kinks.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, honestly, it's, I was just watching. I just don't. I love both the Beatles and the Stones. I definitely grew up in a Beatles house. You were kind of a both.
House.
You know.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
It's just like. It's hard to compare the two, and they also like came out of a time that just won't ever happen again.
That's right.
And yeah, just the mania that people had over rock and roll. It still surprises me because it was, it was happening juke joints all over the place that nobody just had access to it, so.
That's right. Nathaniel Rateliff and Joseph Pope, thanks for sitting down with me. Have fun tonight.
Pleasure. We're happy to be here.
Thanks, Leeroy.